Hi, welcome to lecture number 2 in Teaching Creative Dance. My name is Ella Magruder, and today's topic is, can creativity be taught, and if so, how? And what is the value of divergent thought and convergent thought to dance education, and to particularly creative dance? So, the question is, can you teach creativity, and how do you do it if you can? I think the answer is you, as a teacher, can be the facilitator to set up a situation and an environment where you can open the door to creativity and invite a student to walk through. What I mean is this: creativity cannot be taught in a vacuum. You can't make somebody be creative. Probably the worst or maybe one of the least effective things that a teacher can do is say to a student, okay, make up a dance, especially if that student hasn't ever had an improvisation class or hasn't been given the vocabulary or the tools to make a dance with. It's terrifying to be in a class new to movement and new to dance and have a teacher turn on some music and say, okay, make up a dance, or make up a dance right off the bat. So why don't these commands, these questions work? Well, there are a lot of reasons. But first, I think I'd like to turn the paradigm around and say, what does work? What helps people to be creative? And I'd say, first and foremost, you have to narrow down their options. You have to take away choices. Wow, isn't that a paradox, that you would actually make someone or help someone be more creative by taking away their freedom? But oddly enough, it's really true. And there is a very serious reason why narrowing down your topic really works. To be creative, a person needs a facilitator or someone to help guide them, and they need specifics. The more you narrow down and limit a subject, the more you force a person to find new ideas. Something about limitation just does something to human nature, and the mind just starts working better. So instead of make a dance up, ask questions and be very, very specific. For example, you have a group of 8, 9, and 10-year-olds who are very competent little movers in their own way on the playground, but might not know too much about dance in a classroom. So you bring in something specific, like a seashell. You show it to them. You hold it up. You talk a little bit about where that seashell is from, the kind of environment that it's in, all of the things that seeing something like that might bring up. Then you ask the students to take their finger and trace the shape of that shell in the space in front of them. You let them explore that. Then you say, can you show me that shape using 2 arms? They try that. You ask them, how can they move that shape around in their axial place space? Then you continue on asking crossover questions. What's it feel like to be inside? How would that creature move in a really narrow, confined space? What if they had that shape and they could move it around the space through walking or gliding in the same way that water moves slowly, or waves push creatures around in the ocean? In these ways, you could ask for a student to give you many different ways of moving. And since dance is basic communication, it really, really helps to have something to dance about before you ask a person just to, blam, make up a dance. Narrowing down the choices by directing the student to address a particular and unambiguous idea is really important. The younger the child, the more concrete the topic should be. For 8-year-olds, for instance, they'll have more fun and have better ideas when you're exploring the abstract concept of level. If you tell them to imagine that they're in a low tunnel under the ground and they have to figure out a way to move along without bumping their heads in that tunnel. For 4- and 5-year-olds, you have to be even more literal in your questions. You may have to set up, and it's really best to set up an environment where you ask them to go under something on their tummies, so they have to squiggle or crawl through a low space. And then you set up something where they can safely climb up in a little 6-inch ledge and jump off of that, or go from spot to spot, from one leg to the other. So you're teaching them about level as they move. Now, of course, for very young children, moving to music is really pleasurable, so you could make up a song and movement all at the same time that's rhythmic and repetitive, and have the kids squiggling around on their tummies, the 4- and 3-year-olds, saying, I squiggle like a snake, I move like an ant, I crawl. You know, I mean, I can't carry a tune, and maybe you can't either, but you can have the children chanting and singing along with you. They've all heard rap, for goodness sakes. They'll help you make up a song. So another way that you might do something a little more literal and working with imagery, but from a dance perspective, is to start off from the idea of a birthday party, that children are going to skip around following one leader through the space. Or maybe they're going to skip through the general space carrying a present, and then as the music is on or you're beating the drum, that present grows and it gets bigger and bigger, and then it gets heavier and heavier, and you're leading the children from the experience into understanding the difference between the concepts of space, of size, and the concept of energy, of weight, so that you talk to them about weight and about size after they've experienced the idea and the movement itself. So what I'm describing to you is a way of teaching that encourages many responses. And these many responses and coming up with lots of ideas is a way that the brain works divergently, and this is called divergent thinking. When you ask for divergent responses, you're asking ideally for everyone to have a different answer to solving this problem. So this is a type of creativity in action. And this is one way to open that door to creativity. However, this is not all that there is to creativity. Because a lot of times you want the children to take an idea and work more deeply in that idea to bring it into a little short study or dance. And this gets back to our very topic of making a dance. This way of thinking, coming to one solution, is called convergent thinking, where you take all these many ideas, you hone it down to the thing that is the most expressive, and you create a form. So you'd start off with a concrete shape, perhaps a way that they hold that, and then they explore and explore and explore with that shape or with that idea, and then you end it with a shape. You ask them to choose the parts that they liked best, and then to see if they can repeat that thing over and over again, each time making it bigger, better, more balanced, more interesting, so that they create an aesthetic dimension. Once a child or any human being, can repeat something the same way several times, they have actually made choreography in dance. They've created a form that then is something that they can value as a self-expression, but it has a concrete form that can be repeated and can be appreciated. So you see how convergent thinking is very valuable in teaching creative dance as well. It's actually referring back to our first topic of a product. The children have created a product, but they have ownership over it. It has a form that they have developed. It's very organic, but it is at the same time a form that is essentially concrete, that can be repeated and even learned by someone else. So here again I stress that both divergent thought, thinking of the many different ways of exploring a topic, and then is important. And then thinking about how you can converge, choose, make a distinguishing between things that are suitable for your form or that the child can choose for the form that they're making, and bringing that together in convergent thinking is extremely important to dance, so that we really have a balance of these two types of cognition, of thinking, divergent and convergent. Convergent thinking is what's used in science, where students experiment around a theory to see if they do this or if they do that, if it makes a difference. Convergent thinking is really important, for instance, in science, because you want to find out, are you going to solve this problem? Are you going to cure this disease? And there may be many ways to go about thinking about finding the answer to curing a disease. So in that way, divergent thinking informs the scientific process as much as convergent, finding that one solution. So it's really important for individuals to be able to think in many, many ways, divergently and convergently, to solve problems. It's just that there seems to be a glut on the market of very specific convergent thinking being valued over divergent thinking. For instance, in math, yes, there is only one answer, and it's important to get that one answer right. But unfortunately, many other subjects where there are a lot of ways to think about things, such as social studies, are being taught as though there is only one right answer. There's only one cause to a war. And children are being rewarded in testing, high-stakes testing, because they are giving the one right answer. Life isn't like that. Life is much more surprising, much more bewildering. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to solve problems on the spot. You have to be able to work with other people. And it doesn't do our students any favors to teach them, whether it's in the general educational work in an NK through 12 school or in our dance studios, that there's only one way to do something. Because let's just face it, when you're creating new choreography, you want to find a new and fresh way to present an idea. It doesn't matter what technique you're using, the idea that you express and the ways in which you combine the movements and technical vocabulary, that needs to be something surprising and new, or it will bore an audience. So really, I have to say that my final take on this is that humankind is racked with many, many problems that simply do not, each of these problems do not have just one answer, one solution that will solve things. That we have to look at the value of teaching divergent thinking and of helping to focus kids into a convergent way of addressing problems. And if we can educate a child, if we do nothing else except for help them come up with self-generated solutions through creating dance, and understand that there is a way that you can make that dance better by honing and practicing, then we really will have prepared them very well for life and certainly for a better career in dance. Because eventually you do get old. Eventually you're not able to perform in the same way that you did. And you want to be able to respond to those challenges in your life. So, creative, divergent, and convergent thinkers make better dancers and better citizens in our world today. I hope you think about this and go back through and review the ideas that we've covered today with convergent and divergent thinking and understand how that all factors into creativity, and understand that you can be a great facilitator for your students to explore and to learn how to take ideas and be creative with them on the spot or through planning. Good day.